For 60 years, the remote control ruled every living room on Earth. No competitor came close. By 2012, the average American home had 3 of them. Then, a small black cylinder with no buttons and no screen started replacing them all. Voice control did not just challenge the remote, it killed it. Within a single generation, everything changed. In 1955, a Zenith engineer named Eugene Polly stood in his living room holding a device that looked more like a space-age toy than a tool. The Flashmatic was the world's first wireless television remote. It fired a narrow beam of light at sensors on each corner of the television. One flash to change the channel, another to mute the sound. No wires, no buttons to wear out, just a sense of effortless power. The Flashmatic's patent, filed that same year, described a control system that let viewers command their television from across the room, all with a squeeze of the trigger. But sunlight streaming through a window could fool the sensors, and sometimes the television would flip channels on its own. The idea was bold, but the technology needed more. Enter Robert Adler, Polly's colleague at Zenith. In 1956, Adler introduced the Space Command. This remote did not use light, it relied on sound. Inside, 4 aluminum rods, each tuned to a different frequency, would ring out when struck by tiny hammers. The television's receiver picked up these ultrasonic pings and responded instantly, no matter how bright the room was. The Space Command was reliable, rugged, and wireless. It added about 30% to the cost of a new television, but people lined up to buy it. By the end of the 1950s, the remote had moved from a luxury to a symbol of modern living. The age of effortless control had begun, and the remote became the quiet ruler of the living room. Remote controls didn't just bring power, they brought their own headaches. By 2012, American households owned more than 335 million remotes, juggling an average of 3 per home. That meant 3 times the chance of losing one in the couch cushions, 3 times the batteries to replace, and 3 times the confusion when buttons wore smooth or labels faded away. The remote was supposed to be a throne, but it often felt like a trickster. One minute it was in your hand, the next it had vanished. Family arguments broke out over who had it last. Some people taped neon flags to theirs, hoping to spot it faster. Others bought spares, only to lose those too. Battery life became a running joke. Some remotes chewed through AA batteries in weeks, leaving users scrambling in the middle of a movie night. For the elderly or anyone with limited dexterity, tiny buttons and cryptic layouts turned a simple task into a puzzle. Universal remotes offered more power, but they piled on complexity, with hundreds of buttons, endless setup codes, and a thick manual that never seemed to help when you needed it most. Even so, for decades people shrugged off these flaws. The remote had become part of the furniture, as familiar as the couch itself. Its quirks were just the price of control. Until something better came along. In the late 1990s, a company called Dragon Systems stunned the tech world with a demo that seemed to border on science fiction. Dragon, naturally speaking, let users dictate entire paragraphs, not just single words, and watched as the words appeared on screen in real time. For the first time, people could talk to their computers and see their thoughts transcribed at nearly the speed of conversation. But behind the curtain, the magic came at a cost. Dragon software demanded a powerful personal computer, and even then, it struggled with accents, background noise, and words outside its training set. Early versions required users to speak slowly and clearly, sometimes pausing between phrases. Mistakes were common enough that editing by voice often took longer than just typing. A decade later, a team at SRY International set out to make voice control truly mobile. Their project, Siri, launched on the iPhone 4S in October 2011. Suddenly, millions could ask their phone for the weather or directions and get an answer back. The promise was dazzling, but the reality was uneven. Siri's accuracy hovered around 60 to 70% at launch, and every request had to travel from the phone to distant servers and back. That meant delays, misunderstandings, and a frustrating sense that the phone wasn't really listening. Both Dragon and Siri proved that voice could wow a crowd, but neither could replace the remote. Not yet. The friction was still there, waiting, correcting, repeating. The dream of seamless, hands-free control remained just out of reach. Households didn't rush to ditch their remotes for voice commands. People tried talking to their devices, only to repeat themselves again and again. Recognition errors topped 15%, and for anyone with a regional accent or a hint of background noise, the odds got even worse. Voice assistants stumbled over names, misunderstood requests, and sometimes froze up completely. Early adopters shared stories online. Phones called the wrong contact, smart TVs blasted the volume instead of turning it down, or lights refused to listen at all. Battery drain became a new headache. Phones and smart speakers chewed through power, always listening for wake words, leaving users with dead devices at the worst moments. Surveys from the early 2010s showed a clear trend. Most people didn't trust voice control to handle everyday tasks. Many called it a gimmick, a party trick that worked in demos, but failed in real life. The promise of effortless control felt hollow when the simplest command could spiral into a guessing game. The remote, for all its flaws, still felt more dependable. Voice had a long way to go before it could take the throne. Amazon's Echo landed in late 2014, a squat black cylinder with a blue ring that lit up at a single word, Alexa. The launch felt quiet at first, but the impact was seismic. Within months, Echo sales outpaced expectations. By 2016, the Echo Dot's $50 price tag put voice control in millions of homes, turning a quirky gadget into a household staple. Google raced to catch up, introducing Google Home in 2016 and unleashing Google Assistant across phones and speakers. The race was on, not just for hardware but for something bigger, the platform. Developers flooded in. Amazon opened the Alexa Skills Kit, inviting anyone to build voice apps or skills for everything from pizza delivery to meditation. The numbers exploded. By 2017, there were over 15,000 Alexa skills. 2 years later, that number passed 60,000. Google's actions followed a similar curve, building an ecosystem where voice was not just a feature, but an operating system for the connected home. Smart speaker shipments soared. Global sales jumped 30% in 2019 alone, with Amazon and Google controlling nearly 90% of the United States market. Every new device meant more users, more data, and more developers eager to tap into the voice gold rush. The stakes had shifted. No longer just about controlling the TV, voice platforms were now gatekeepers to the living room, the kitchen, and beyond. The economic opportunity was massive, and the old remote suddenly looked small, a relic in a world racing toward hands-free everything. A single word, Alexa, could now dim the lights, change the channel, or lock the front door. For millions, hands-free control became second nature almost overnight. But with every command, the ripples spread far beyond convenience. Logitech, once the king of universal remotes, watched its Harmony line shrink year after year. In 2018, Harmony sales dropped sharply, and by 2021, the company ended production entirely. The accessory aisles that once overflowed with programmable remotes made way for smart speakers and voice hubs. For retailers, the shift was unmistakable. Remote sales fell as voice devices filled more homes. For some, this new world brought freedom. People with limited mobility or vision found that voice control unlocked technology in ways buttons never could. Suddenly, changing the channel or adjusting the thermostat did not require a steady hand or perfect eyesight, just a spoken request. Accessibility advocates described it as a revolution, not just a feature. But the trade-off was privacy. Always-on microphones listened for wake words, sometimes capturing conversations by mistake. In 2019, a family in Portland discovered their Echo had recorded a private conversation and sent it to a contact without warning. That story made headlines and fueled debate. Privacy watchdogs raised alarms about accidental activations and data collection. Surveys showed that even as adoption soared, nearly half of users worried about being overheard. The promise of effortless control came with a new kind of vulnerability, one that could not be solved with a lost and found box or a fresh set of batteries. Voice is now the gateway to our connected world, frictionless, invisible, always listening. As artificial intelligence advances, every device learns to anticipate us, not just obey. The question is not if another interface will replace voice, but when. In tech, permanence is always temporary. Want more? Subscribe and keep exploring with us.